Good morning, campers!
Welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood. I am your host, Zach.
I'm B.
And this week we're joined by a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Mary.
She also does a podcast, and she was the first person to ask if she wanted to be on our show. And we're like, wow, no one's asked us before.
Yeah, congratulations, I guess.
It's very exciting. Well, you guys just beat me to it. I was trying to think of doing my own Percy Jackson podcast, and then I noticed it was already out there.
Actually, it's really funny. I was Googling the name of our podcast to see, what comes up when you search, Percy Jackson podcast, whatever. I wanted to see, Google results. And there was a podcast about Percy Jackson that was called, instead of Camp Radio Half-Blood, we're Radio Camp Half-Blood, and the other show was Camp Half-Blood Radio. But they, just stopped recording.
It's so surprising how often you see that, where people will just make a couple episodes and then stop suddenly.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Well, I think the reason of that is because people start looking at their listenership and see they have 10 people and then they give up.
Yeah, you gotta just keep going, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta do it. You gotta do it for fun, not for a career. If you're looking to do podcasting as a career, you probably should have started 10 years ago.
Yeah, I guess.
So, Mary, what type of podcast do you do? Because you also do a podcast.
Yes, I do a podcast called the Kowski Cast with my sister and a couple other different people for different series. Currently, we're doing a podcast about the ABC TV show Revenge that was on a few years ago. We're doing a rewatch of that. And I've also got a Westworld recap that's coming out pretty soon to recap the first season before the second season starts. And a great, super cool podcast about Twilight that's going to come out, which is it's called Twi Fight, where we have people who like Twilight versus people who don't, discussing the pros and cons.
How do you find the people who like Twilight?
Yeah, clever. Hey, maybe you'd have to listen and you'll get some good idea of what people do like about it.
Yeah, yikes.
So this week we read another chapter. Mary, what is the name of this chapter?
This one was Grover Unexpectedly Loses His Pants, another quality chapter name.
They're really good. Yeah, the titles are very fun. I feel like I'm used to chapters that don't have titles anymore. It's really exciting.
I'm so used to chapter 1, chapter 2.
It wasn't until I looked back at this book that I remembered how interesting the chapter titles are.
Yeah, I like how they imply something different than what they're about, which is fun.
Well, I mean, it's a very vague thing that actually does happen in the chapter, and it's just what is that supposed to be a reference to?
Yeah.
Especially to a kid, that just what? What's gonna happen?
Well, because if he actually explained what it meant, then it would just spoil the entire chapter, basically, because you don't really find out what happens to Grover until the last page, basically.
Or the last sentence.
Yeah, even then, they sort of give a little hint about where his legs should be, and then it's another page later until you actually figure out what happened to his legs.
They're a different sort of legs.
They're just unexpected.
On that note, are we gonna get into it, I guess? The plot of this thing?
Yeah, we're gonna totally get into this. B, remember what your prediction was for last week, and how they're gonna be a bunch of information that's gonna be dropped all around the bus? What happened?
He leaves. Basically.
Confession time. I ditched Grover as soon as we got off the bus terminal.
Yeah. So it starts that, they don't even describe the bus ride at all, which is kind of weird. You'd think that they would say something. I don't know. That was a dumb prediction, I guess.
Well, I mean, after 6 other stops with the bus breaking down, you kind of get a sense of the repetitivity of the story.
Percy is supposed to be freaked out about Grover talking about it always happens in 6th grade, and he was a goner or whatever. He felt freaked out about the way he was acting, but I feel like that would make him more prone to asking questions about what's going on, but he kind of just runs away, which I don't feel makes sense. You know what I mean? If I had a bunch of questions about something, I wouldn't then abandon the person who has the answers. It just seems weird.
I don't know, for me it's a little different because he was just freaking Percy out, to the point of where he just keeps saying a couple same things. He's kind of you shouldn't go up in them hills. That's where them teenagers died 6 years to the day.
Yeah. No,
You're
I know what you
mean. Doomed.
And the most unrealistic thing about this chapter, I feel is that Percy, he keeps getting in these situations where he has these questions and he knows the person he's talking to has more answers or he should press them, and he just doesn't. And he just decides, that would freak him out.
Yeah, that's what's weird to me. I feel like that wouldn't be the thing that I would do in that scenario. Like, it's sort of like if you were reading Harry Potter and then Hagrid showed up and, like, Harry Potter was like, this guy's really creepy and big and hairy, and, like, ran away. Like, that's what it would be like. You know what I mean? Or, like, he kept getting letters from Hogwarts, but he was the one who was ignoring them. Like, no kid would do that. No 12-year-old would be like, oh, well, there's something magic and cool going on, but I'm not gonna ask questions. Like, every 12-year-old would want to know.
Especially because Grover drops, I was meant to protect you. Why does it always happen? Why is it always 6th grade? Here's my card.
I think that's an excellent point, and I believe the reason Rick Riordan did this was so you can keep the kids guessing as you keep turning the pages. Because if he spoiled it...
Yeah, I know. I could tell that that's what it was, but...
because if you spoil it, you just don't have a book anymore. I mean, Grover could easily have told him everything that he needed to know, but... You know, Percy has to run away to cause this conflict, and then we get into, like, weird, like, not Abuseville, but very close to Abuseville.
Yeah, we're in the general vicinity of that.
We're right in the tri-state area of that.
That was pretty sad. It was very, like, Matilda-esque, I feel like, the description of his home life. You know, like him sitting there in front of the TV.
I thought of Matilda multiple times as well. When I was reading that, that's what kept popping into my head.
Also just, like, the description of, like, a grotesque adult who, like, kind of hates children for no reason.
A little on the nose with his last name being Ugliano.
Yeah, I know. He, like, has ugly in his name, yeah. I mean, I think, obviously, the main difference being that Percy is kind of the opposite of Matilda in a lot of ways. Like, minus the possible magic power implication, he's not, like, a super smart, like, precocious kid. He is, in fact, like, doing really poorly in school.
Yeah, and even, like, you wouldn't catch him dead in the library and stuff like that.
Though I feel like he's probably going to go to a library at one point in the series.
It's bound to happen.
I have a feeling.
The thing that's crazy about this is when you just compare it to so many other books in the same genre and stories, you know, your mind goes to Harry Potter. It's shocking that he does have his mother, because that's such a trope in these books that the kids don't have any parents, and we know that, you know, there's a story behind his father, but
I can easily answer that question about, like, you have, like, the structure of you can't have a kid going on an adventure if both of his parents are alive.
Yeah.
The parents would be like, no, you can't do this unless either
You have to kill at least one.
You have to kill at least one, or both of them, or the kid has to be an orphan.
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, it kind of happens in this, where it's Percy doesn't know his dad, Percy's mom is in a terrible situation.
Yeah.
And she's very, like, laissez-faire when it comes to Percy.
right, he's already spent a lot of his life not with her.
She spends all of her time working, from what I understand, because the stepdad or whatever he is, he doesn't really go to work, and they need money, so she has to go and work at this candy store. So that kind of distracts her enough that she's not 100% paying attention to him. And also she's, like, constantly sending him away to boarding school, so he's, like, not really even around his mom that much to begin with.
Yeah, no, I guess that gives us a good segue into, like, getting into... So Percy gets to go home to his apartment, and the first person he meets is the person he hates the most, his stepfather.
Gabe. Smelly Gabe.
Gabe Ugliano.
Smelly Gabe, yeah. Which is, yeah, a really clever nickname on his part.
I mean, he probably thought of it when he was, like, 6 or 7, and like, oh man, this is
I guess
so
that's
good.
true.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out exactly how long that his mom has been married to Gabe.
I would imagine, okay, so what I thought was happening was, it was kind of like he wined her and dined her, and then when they actually got married, that's when he really showed, like, his true colors. So it could have been 5 years, it could have been, like, last week. But the way it implies is that Percy's always had him kind of in his life.
Right, because it doesn't talk about, like, oh, back in the day when me and my mom were just together, just the two of us.
He talks about, like, other people that she's dated, right? Is that?
No, she never really dated anyone besides Percy's father. And then it was Gabe.
Okay. No, then maybe I'm misremembering that now.
And it sounds like she had him when she was pretty young, because she had to drop out of high school to help her sick uncle, and then she met his dad, got pregnant, but the dad disappeared or was lost at sea.
Yeah.
Then she got married to Gabe, and this is where I see more reminiscence as well as to Harry Potter, and how you have the situation that normally would destroy a kid. You know, Percy's just very headstrong about it, even though surprisingly, this is the most realistic aspect of him. He's pissed off at both Gabe and the situation.
As opposed to, what, like, scared of him?
in Harry Potter, I mean, like the Dursleys, like Harry just accepts it, even though like he really wishes that he doesn't.
Yeah, I
even
guess
in
that's
Series of
true.
Unfortunate Events, very near the end of the first book, do the Baudelaires actually get pissed off and not, like this isn't the situation we want to be in.
I think it really depends on the circumstances. Like in the case of like Unfortunate Events, like a lot of that has to do with like the kids don't want to be rude because you're kind of conditioned to not be rude to adults, and that's like the whole thing of like if a kid is dealing with an abusive adult, they are more likely to think that they're in the wrong somehow, like they're supposed to like put up with it to an extent, or like I guess with Harry Potter it's like he knew them
Well,
since
and
they
Harry has no other option. Before, Hagrid comes and everything, that's his only family. That's all he's got. I feel
I'm
like
pretty sure it's also the same situation with like Percy. I'm pretty sure Percy told his mom like you should just leave this man.
Well, that was what I thought was kind of hard to say. I got the feeling from this that Percy sort of thinks in the back of his mind, oh, eventually we'll get away from Gabe. I'm too young now. I can't protect her. But once I'm old enough, once I have a job, I'm going to get my mom out of this situation. And this is temporary.
He also talks about how he doesn't understand how his mom puts up with all of the stuff that Gabe says, but also there are like little hints that she sort of rebels against him. Like she does the whole blue food thing because they had an argument about no such thing as blue food. So it's like this little passive aggressive thing that she does to like assert the fact that she doesn't like him, or like she kept her last name, like little things like that that give him hope that eventually they're not going to be a thing anymore. But it's kind of more like the stability, I guess, he provides, which doesn't totally make sense to me because they make a point to say that he doesn't really go to work and
well,
that
he's
he,
the
like,
manager
away
of
all
a
the money.
store.
Yeah.
He's just, I guess, so high up in the manager chain that he doesn't actually need to go in.
No, he's a manager of just a store. Like managers don't make that much. You'd be surprised how much managers. They don't make that much money. Like this is not like he's not like Michael Scott, where he somehow can always like weasel himself out of like weird situations. He's just like the manager in the pack that just hates his life.
But they also say he keeps getting paychecks, which I don't understand. Like, what's going on
I don't
there?
know. My brain went to is there like a manager union? Because that's like the only thing I can think of.
I guess, but it's not like he's out on disability or something. He's just like at home playing poker.
I don't know, and it's weird because he's also friends with the person that's his like the superintendent of the office, not the office, of his apartment. Yeah,
the apartment building, you mean? Yeah. He plays poker with him. And even he's like, all right, why are you asking a child for money? Which is like one of the strangest points that they make, that he keeps asking this kid for like cash. Like
not even that much cash, like $7.
So strange. Yeah, like $7. Like, why are you asking for $7 from a 12-year-old? Like, that's totally crazy to me. Also, that his mom would not notice that Percy was giving money to this guy. It's just so strange.
No, what are you talking about? Remember, it's this guy's secret.
Yeah, I guess, but like, she would never like walk in on him giving money. Like, I don't know. He made it sound like it was a thing that was really common.
I'm not really sure what she could do, even if she found out.
I would imagine it's a very common thing. There's just like the problem with Sally Jackson is she's again very laissez-faire when it comes to these situations. When for the sake of a kid's book, it's something like in most situations people are like I can't stand for this. And they could get out of the situation, but she doesn't.
She doesn't seem to have a lot of strong opinions. Like, she puts up with Gabe, and she puts up with Percy. Like, she's not even really, she's a nice mom, but she's not really a good mom because he, fails out of school or like he gets like expelled, and also he has like a D+ average, and she's just like, oh, how is my boy? Or what? Like, I understand that that's kind of a good parenting thing to like check in on your kid, but also like, you should be concerned about how he's doing in school. It just feels like she just doesn't care about anything.
Well, I feel like for a children's book, from the very first paragraph of the whole book that he's a half-blood, something is going to happen. We don't quite know where his, magical abilities are coming from or whatever, but that the story is going to move on, and the chapters are so short, and they are just keep it moving, that I think sort of all of these questions will be answered eventually, and as a kid reading it, you're just flipping through trying to get to the story.
I mean, here we are as like a bunch of like 20-somethings, and we're trying to like dissect, man, like is Gabe a really terrible person, or is he just a really, really terrible person?
Yeah, I don't think it was very ambiguous.
Oh no, I'm not most definitely. There's no like he's a good person. There's no part of that argument that like there's one person that says that, but we're just like we ignore them and pretend they don't exist.
Yeah, and he's pretty one-dimensional even for a villain here.
He's even probably more one-dimensional than, like, the Dursleys or something. He's, like... He has, like, no personality trait other than, like, disgusting.
He's fat.
Yeah, he's ugly and he eats bean dip and drinks beer and smells. It's a very surface-level characterization going on.
Oh, but he loves his car.
Oh, he does.
So
he
that's
loves his
very important.
76 Camaro.
I get, like, is that really such a... I don't know. I don't think that that's...
Okay, so coming from someone that, like, has grown up with people that just love cars, yeah, people love their cars.
A lot of people love their cars. I don't know. Like, of course, he's like a shallow guy. Of course he would really love, you know, this one thing that makes him, I don't know,
Mere macho.
look cool or whatever. Yeah, like, obviously he's, like, emasculated, like, kind of slob of a guy who's like, oh, my cool car makes me look cool. Like, that's...
Like, he's compensating for something.
Yeah. Yeah, like the lack of brains or anything else.
And hair.
Yeah, and hair. His 3 hairs that he combs over his head.
Oh, that he does, like, a really awful comb over.
Oh, God.
I'm surprised, like, he doesn't wear a toupee.
That's another reason why I was picturing Matilda, because I was picturing the
Danny
father.
DeVito.
I don't know about Danny DeVito, yeah.
I don't know. For me, I was thinking of, like, a Joe Pesci type of person, or like a James Gandolfini.
I mean, all 3 of those people would show up to the same casting call, so it's the same kind of look.
Well, and I don't know about you guys, but when I read this book and other books in general, I don't necessarily picture really fleshed out images. Like, you know, I know some people read Harry Potter and they picture the actors. I don't really do that. I just picture sort of more like what they look like on the cover of the books, usually, like drawings, kind of.
I'm kind of the opposite. I think of it like a movie, so I have to set, like, everything up as framed, everything is in rule of thirds.
I'm kind of like the combination of both of you, because I feel like if I read a book and I've only ever seen the illustrations, then I imagine the illustrations, but then if I then watch the movie, then the movie will influence how I picture that. Actually, it's a funny example with Unfortunate Events. I started reading it when I was younger because the movie came out, and at first in my head, the sound of Lemony Snicket was like the Jude Law British accent voice. And then the second book or something, I had, you know, looked up interviews with Daniel Handler and things like that and knew what his voice sounded like and kind of was more influenced by the illustrations. So then that kind of became my image.
For me, it's a little different with Season Unfortunate Events because I listen to the audiobooks. And Tim Curry's voice.
Oh, so you imagine Tim Curry? Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I imagine Jim Dale's voices every time I read Harry Potter, and not just his voices, but his inflection and the way he stresses words. That's how I read it when I read it off the page.
Is that the person who does the
yes,
audiobook?
Actually, there's 2 people.
Yeah.
So there was Stephen Fry, and then there was Jim Dale, and Jim Dale's.
They have very similar bass voices.
Fun fact about that was J.K. Rowling hated Stephen Fry so much that
hated him as a person or as a voice actor?
I don't know. I think it was both. Because there's a reason. She was very petty about something.
That's really funny.
She purposely put a word that he could not physically say in every one of the Harry Potter books.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
Why couldn't he physically say it?
Like, it just could not, like, he couldn't, like, say it with affliction. Like, he just couldn't say it correctly. Like, it was like a tongue twister. So, yeah, so every Harry Potter book going up to, I think, the 3rd has a specific, like, line that Stephen Fry could not say. He had the hardest time. It would take him, like so many takes to do that.
And I don't know about how the Stephen Fry versions sound, but the Jim Dale ones, he does individual character voices for each of the Harry Potter characters, and he had won a whole bunch of records and awards for that prior to the Game of Thrones books, or the Song of Ice and Fire books, when they were done by Roy Dotrice, who beat his record for the most number of voices.
Though speaking of terrible audiobooks, the person that narrates these Percy Jackson books is terrible.
Is it like a named person, or is it just some guy?
Just some guy, but he's very, like, monotone, like this. I was like, Percy's like a half-blood, and
Oh, and I can't listen to audiobooks if I don't like the voice actor. I have a really hard time listening to him. Like Matilda, come back again. Jim Dale also did the audiobook for Matilda, and so I really liked that one. But I can't, if the voice just doesn't sound right, or if they pronounce names differently than I do.
Oh, that's
I
another
can't do
one
it.
too. Yeah, if you pronounce the name wrong, that would drive me crazy.
And I read the Percy Jackson books when I was 12. I read them, and so I, for some reason, just misread a lot of the names. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, oh shoot, like I had been saying Mr. Brunner the whole time, or Mr. Burner the whole time instead of Mr. Brunner. Yeah, the whole time. And there's a couple other names coming up that like Greek names that I just pronounced wrong in my head.
Yeah, I feel like the Greek names is definitely something that I have this really bad habit of when I'm reading a name to just sort of go blah, 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 in my brain, like just to gloss over like Mrs. blah, blah, blah. And then like when I hear it out loud, I'm like, oh, that's not, I guess I didn't really picture a name now that I think about it. I realize that there's a character in the All the Wrong Questions Lemony Snicket prequel series. What is her name is Moxie Malahan, and I thought it was Malhallen for some reason, and like I can't get that out of my head for the life of me. Like once you get a name wrong, it's just like you're cursed forever.
I mean, there's one like this entire series until I actually like sat down and actually went to college and I realized, oh, I've been saying this word completely wrong for like the last 12 years.
That's the thing about the Greek names, probably. I'm kind of dreading, like, what my brain is gonna guess on that. Because especially when you're just reading to yourself.
Talking to a dyslexic, so this is gonna be really fun.
Oh, well, you know, that's kind of ironic considering the main character's dyslexic.
Maybe you're a half-blood.
I have ADHD as well, so...
All signs point to half-blood.
I feel like you'd know by now, because you'd be, like, 12 when you found out.
Knowing my luck, what's gonna happen is, like, my Hogwarts letter's gonna come the same day as something else comes, and I'm like, oh, great. Do I have to pick?
Right, you have to pick between Camp Half-Blood and Hogwarts.
Can I go to both?
I guess, because it's the summer camp, right? So you could just, during the school year, and then...
Yeah, half-blood in the summer.
Wow, that's a busy year. That's a lot to do.
I mean, it's just regular college. What are you talking about?
I can't be the chosen one at both of these places.
So then Percy's mom surprises Percy with one of the coolest things. They're going to go to the beach.
Montauk. Right? They go to Montauk.
Do you know where that is? Because the weird thing, though, B, is like, you're like a New York native. Yeah.
I'm not a New York native, to be fair. I'm just a New York native.
The state of New York.
Yeah, the state of New York. Yeah, it's in Long Island, Montauk is, right? Yeah. I mean, for a summer, I lived with an author on Long Island, so I vaguely know Long Island, sort of. Yeah, it's like a vacation destination place, boardwalk kind of thing.
It kind of reminds me, there's a place about an hour away from me called Oceanside, and this is what I was getting, was vibes like this.
Yeah, I feel like Northeast boardwalks have a very specific vibe of sadness, where it's like, we're on vacation, but I kind of feel like I'm being robbed the whole time.
This is nothing like California beaches.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably just a little bit more chipper, a little less... I mean, I haven't been to Montauk, but I've been to other places in Long Island, and I've been to... One summer I went to Cape May, New Jersey, which is kind of a similar, like, boardwalky kind of touristy place. They're not good. They sound fun in concept, but in execution...
But Percy just loves this place. This is their favorite place in the whole world to go to.
Yeah, I guess, you know, he's a dumb kid. He doesn't know any better.
Yeah, so they take his 70 Camaro, and they go up towards for the weekend.
Well, I picture them, Percy and his mom, to be, like, the only people here at this beach, and that it's way early in the season and no one else is there.
I was thinking more like, I know it's not Christmas time, but, like, near, like, that gloomy time where no one wants to go, because they describe that the water's way too cold to go swimming in.
Yeah, well, if it was Christmas time, they would die if they went into the water. The water would be frigid, and then they would die.
Gotta do that polar plunge.
That's exactly what it would be like. Yeah, no one would go swimming in, like, January in New York. That would be a death sentence.
And he said that there's always sand in the sheets everywhere.
Spiders in the cupboards.
Yeah.
Monsters under the bed.
Which doesn't sound great.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that fun.
Oh, and this sounds homely. Like, I spent so much time going up to Big Bear, which is our big mountain that we have. And this is kind of the stuff, like, I rent a cabin for about $80 a night, and it's really lovely.
My family has this like, little house in Pennsylvania that's just, like, we would go sometimes just to, like, rough it. And it was basically like camping because there was, like, no electricity ever. And literally there were just, like, dead ladybugs on every surface.
I mean, there's, like, a very nice little, I must say, not primeval type of feel to it when you're just out in, like, a little cabin. Like, it's very, I guess, Walden-esque. As they're there, you know, Percy and his mom, they're enjoying a lot of blue foods.
The funny thing is, like, he's not even with them at this point, so the blue foods are just for their sake.
Well, it's comfort food.
Yeah, I guess.
It's all the stuff that Percy loves because Percy loves the color blue.
My parents used to dye our milk green on, like, St. Patrick's Day, and I would not be able to drink it. I couldn't get past the green color.
God, this just sounds like Trolls 2.
Well, like blue milk would be like very Star Warsian.
Yes. I'm fine with blue
but
milk.
it's a subtle blue. It's not like blueberry colored.
You know, while they're there, Percy brings up the one thing that Percy's mom never doesn't really like bringing up, but it's always about Percy's dad.
Ah, yes, his mysterious father,
Yes.
That he
who
assumed.
he has a warm glow from, even though he never saw him.
Like, I feel like that's something that would have come up before he was 12. The fact that he never actually met his dad.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a very like Rocky Road situation.
The ice cream? What do you mean a Rocky Road situation?
Well, I mean, how much do you tell about a person like their dad basically like left them?
I feel like that's like the first question you ask, though, is like, how old was I when he left or something? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
No,
that's...
I think the first question you would ask was why did he leave?
I guess. That's like, okay, so it's the second question you would ask. Excuse me.
Well, and just saying he went on an ocean voyage, like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, that doesn't mean a lot. Okay, is it just me, or like when I was a kid, I had like a weird irrational fear of my loved ones getting lost at sea. That was such a plot point in kids media that like doesn't have. No one gets lost at sea. Almost nobody does anymore.
B, did you live in like the Pippi Longstocking universe?
No, exactly. I watched Pippi Longstocking, and I also watched Pete's Magic Dragon. Both cases, there is a guy who gets lost at sea, and they're like waiting, like looking out into the ocean for him to come back, and it's just like, it's not even like my dad went out on boats that much. I was just like stressed about it. I don't know. I feel like a kid with an anxiety disorder shouldn't watch a lot of shows.
I never had a fear of that, but we used to always play games where we were kids who were separated from our parents because they got lost at sea and we washed up on like an island or
I like
something.
how this is apparently like a cultural thing.
It is. It
is a cultural
we watched
thing.
a lot
I
of,
lived in like rural New Mexico where all there was just sand. And for me, I saw the movie Tremors at a really young age.
So you were just afraid of
I was just afraid
earthquakes.
that the ground was going to eat us.
Yeah, I mean, I was afraid of quicksand, and I have a pretty good suspicion that there's no quicksand in New York, but
Not that you know of.
Did you watch Princess Bride and just get freaked out?
I watched Princess Bride, I watched Neverending Story and The Swamp of Sadness with Artax, and he's drowning, and I'm weeping, and then the horses... I'm getting traumatized just talking about it.
If you get stuck in the swamp of sadness, you can just cast a Patronus and it'll make everything happy. So Percy gets zero answers about his father, besides just, he was tall and handsome, and then he was lost at sea, and I only knew him for a summer.
And he has green eyes.
That's about it.
Oh, yes.
That's
like
just
the sea.
like the like seafoam green. But the problem though is Percy was trying to tell his mom about, how his year was, except, he didn't quite get to the part about Mrs. Dodds.
Oh, and that reminds me, this bothered me so much during this chapter, probably just because I read them back to back really fast, but Mrs. Dodds kept calling him honey, and then his mom kept calling him honey, like every sentence, oh, honey, and I'm like, it just got creepy. Yeah, I was like, stop calling him honey, get another word, because...
Do you think that when you first read it, you were, like, suspicious that she had something to do with it?
I think that's a little too much credit to give both me and the book for doing that, but I think they just forgot that they had already used that word.
Oh, Rick Riordan is from, like, Texas and stuff, so I would imagine that's, like, a
Everyone
very
calls each
common-
other honey. Yeah, that's another thing, too, is, like, I don't really feel like his mom talks like she's from New York, which is kind of weird. Like, neither of them really do. I guess they just kind of talk like regular American colloquialisms.
Do you want them to sound like super like Joe Pesci?
I get, like, no, I mean, they're from Manhattan. They probably wouldn't really sound like that. I mean, I don't really know what their background is. Like, she's been going to Long Island she would probably sound like the freaking Long Island Medium or something. That's what or something. I don't know.
I like how we're like getting like super in depth into this instead of just being like, yeah, they talk like regular American folks.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm from New York and I don't sound, like Joe Pesci. Hopefully.
I was gonna say, you sound pretty normal.
Well, okay, but you've never met my parents. They're more like, they're Bronx Irish people. So I don't know really how to describe what those people are like, except for to describe the gist of what my family is like. At my grandpa's funeral, which was at on the specific road in Woodlawn, which is like the Irish neighborhood of the Bronx, I saw a man on the side of the street screaming very loudly, incomprehensibly, with a tattoo of like the Yankees symbol on his neck. That's kind of a snapshot of where my family's from. So not quite Greedos, it's a different flavor.
Oh, that's weird that you said that. I was about to say, sounds very flavorful, and I don't know why, because that is not something that I would ever...
The local flavor.
I've never heard that before.
The local flavor.
Flavor.
Yeah, the local flavor. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really know where his family's from, so it would really depend, but yeah.
Well, I guess for the sake of argument, they just sound like regular American folks.
Yeah, but like the honey thing, I feel like is not.
I mean, this isn't Rick Riordan's first book, but then again, the books they wrote before this were like from Texas, and I know for a fact that the main character, his mom called him Honey, so that could actually just, or Sweetie.
His own speaking patterns or whatever.
Honey's better than Sweetie, at least.
That's
Yeah.
a possibility.
In New York, we don't have terms of endearment.
Hey, you!
One of you's over here. Come downstairs. I don't remember your name. Get your sister. I don't know. Whatever. Just something.
That makes me think of Boy Meets World, where Corey says, "For the past 5 years, I've only been known as 3 things. Eric's brother, Sean's friend, and my favorite, hey kid, move."
So the problem, though, is, Percy has been trying to tell his mom about all these things, and they finally get to the cabin, and, Percy decides not to because weird things keep happening in his life. This is not the first time something weird like this has happened.
That's definitely like chosen one book/movie trope 101 is like, oh, all the weird things that happened as a child that I didn't remember. Like, it kind of reminded me of Halloween Town, how they talk about how, like, the oldest sister, like, had all these signs that she was a witch as a kid, and then they were trying to cover up the fact that her younger sister was a witch by, like, she was, like, teleporting, like, cookies towards her, and the mom would catch it midair and stuff.
Oh, yeah, kind of like that. I mean, here it's like there's the guy with, like, the trench coat trying to snatch up Percy, and the teacher's like, shoo, and Percy swears that he only had one eye in the middle of his head. Or the other one, which I think is more, I don't know, this is more like a Hercules type of stuff.
With his fat, what does he say? His strong baby hands?
His meaty toddler hands.
Meaty toddler hands. Big meaty claws.
Well, and it's weird that all of his flashbacks are of, like, dangerous things that had happened or scary things, whereas, like, when you get the Harry Potter flashbacks, he's just like, oh, some funny man with a top hat bowed to me and stuff. It's just, like, weird people.
Well, no, except for that whole thing. He did make the glass dissolve and the snake escape.
Or no, I mean, also in Harry Potter, there's the part where Harry Potter remembers, like, oh, I remember a flash of light and hearing my mom screaming to death.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't remember a soft glow of your father when you never saw him either.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The one thing that Percy's dad really wanted Percy to go to, even though he wasn't even born yet, high expectations, was to go to a summer camp.
Have either of you ever been to summer camp?
Yes, I've been to plenty of Jewish summer camps in my life.
Jewish summer I know I have a friend who's been to a lot of Jewish summer camps. I've been to decidedly non-Jewish summer camps.
I've only been to, like, activity camps, like Girl Scout camp, cross-country camp. It's never been, like, just a full summer camp kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've never gone to, like, sleepaway camp before, but I've gone to day camp, and I had a lot of really bad experiences.
I think the sad thing is I don't remember half of me going to those camps, except I remember one of our teachers who was a rabbi showing us Willow for the first time. Summer camp's fun. We'll get more to summer camp later on.
Yeah, when we
get there.
Yeah.
But that night, Percy has the weirdest dream. That night, I had a vivid dream. It was storming on the beach, and 2 beautiful animals, a white horse and a golden eagle, were trying to kill each other at the other end of the surf. The eagle swooped down and slashed the horse's muzzle with its huge talons. The horse reared and kicked the eagle's wings. As they fought, the ground rumbled, and a monstrous voice chuckled somewhere beneath the earth, goading the animals to fight harder. I ran towards them, knowing that I could not stop them from killing each other. But I was running in slow motion, and I knew I would be too late. I saw the eagle dive down, its beak aimed at the horse's wide eye, and I screamed, "No!" I woke up with a start.
Yeah, it's an intense dream. Very allegorical.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Greeks, do you know what the Greeks interpreted dreams as?
Did it have something to do with, like, the afterlife or something?
No, dreams to the Greeks were basically looking at the future.
Okay, I see.
So that's why there's, like, sayers and stuff. You would look at your dreams, and they would analyze them and tell you what your future is. It wasn't like, oh, your subconscious and stuff. It's not the afterlife. It's actually about seeing into the future. That's why a lot of Greek plays, they get, like, these premonitions in dreams, and then, it's kind of like the Oedipus. So Percy wakes up and he's, like, freaking out. There's, like, a hurricane blowing because, hurricanes exist in the East Coast.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, we don't have them, so it's a really weird thing.
Yeah, sometimes. It depends.
They definitely
usually
exist, but they're not usually just freak things that come out of nowhere.
Except, this is like the really weird one because as that's happening, Grover appears in the rain.
And his pants are missing.
No, his pants are missing, and where his legs should have been, ...
He's got little baby legs where his
Little baby legs. Or like robot legs. I'm trying to think of what else would be really funny.
No, it turns out that Grover has cloven hooves.
Which also is like a very weird phrase for a 12-year-old to know, cloven hooves. I feel like they would just say hooves.
The part that I can't figure out from this is that, it says, over the roar of the wind, I heard a distant bellow and angry, tortured sound that made my hair stand on end. Then a much closer noise like mallets in the sand, which I think is a weird comparison for a 12-year-old. But, how are you hearing that quiet? Mallets in the sand isn't a very loud noise. How are you hearing that over all the wind and rain?
Well, I think I think that's supposed to be, heavy, heavy rain. If you dump water on the ground, it makes, a distinct sound like that. And if it's, hurricaning and...
Yeah, also if the water's wet, or if the sand is wet, then the water would make, a louder noise as it hit the sand than just dry sand that just sort of moves to the side.
This is another very Harry Potter comparison with someone, while there's a rainstorm going on, someone pounding on a door.
Oh yeah, that's a very Hagrid move for sure.
Wizard, Percy. It just Hagrid's there. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got the wrong house.
Got the wrong house.
Oh, terribly sorry.
The wrong side of the Atlantic, my dude. I guess it's funny because that actually takes place when they're on an island, right? Aren't they?
Yes, they're in the middle of the ocean during a huge, terrible storm.
Yeah, it's a very similar scene. That's weird.
And the chapter ends with Percy seeing Grover's hooves,
and he has a birthday cake with him.
Yeah, it's
Says happy birthday, Percy.
It's probably a blue birthday cake, though. Let's be honest.
It's in the shape of a sandcastle.
I know we keep mentioning Harry Potter, but there's just so many similarities. It's kind of a little bit uncomfortable.
No, I was such a nerd as a kid. I have the collector's edition, it's a treasure chest box with all these books inside, and there's a secret compartment in the bottom, and under all of my Percy Jackson books in there is I found a piece of paper where I had written out a comparison chart of Harry Potter and Percy Jackson that I must have been getting from when I was reading the book.
I can actually say this non-spoilery is only the first book is really Harry Potter-esque. Afterwards, it stops being Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, and it just becomes straight up the Odyssey.
Okay, wait, I feel like we talked about this, but what year did the first Harry Potter book come
1997.
out?
Yeah, so this was a lot later than that.
So the first Percy Jackson book was released in 2005.
So that was a while later. That was almost 10 years later.
Just about, yeah.
I don't know. It's very clearly influenced. I think especially I'm thinking in terms of Rick Riordan and him being oh, I'm trying to make a new serial. It made sense that he would want the first book to fans of Harry Potter and be oh, this is very similar. I like this for the same reasons.
Well, and most of the comparison aren't even really direct Harry Potter ones. They're just comparisons to common hero journey type things.
Yeah. Or especially YA Lit at the time had a certain...
because I said, I think I said this in the introduction episode where there's this weird period of time where books were very, very similar to each other. And I would imagine because Rick Riordan, was a middle school teacher and everyone read Harry Potter and the way to because this is supposed to be, these books are supposed to be, I love this word, infotainment. And they're supposed to be infotainment in a way that grasp readers. So if you make them similar to a book that everyone likes, let's say Harry Potter, people would be initially drawn to it because it's Harry Potter-esque, but not blatantly ripping off Harry Potter. Because again, you can make information really dull.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I also think that that's just that's another common thing with children's books in general is to be super didactic about things here's the lesson we are learning, whether it's sort of a moral lesson.
Well, I mean, you can easily look at books I'll give you a prime example. I find that The Chronicles of Narnia is a very boring book series.
Is it because it's so morally here is what you should do kind of?
Yeah, kind of. I feel like that. And
I mean, it does give me that vibe a lot, especially have you read, is it the last book where they talk about how one of the children basically goes to hell because she likes fashion or something? Yeah, children's books can sometimes really veer into the if you do X plus Y, then you are a good person.
Because that's the one thing I like about, I guess, Harry Potter and Percy Jackson is it's very gray area when it comes to morality.
Do you think that Harry Potter's gray area?
Yeah,
about
very
morality?
gray area. I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. Dumbledore is the most gray area person you could possibly have.
That's true. You're right. Yes.
So.
Well, and you get a lot of characters, you look at the Malfoys or whatever, where you can see what they're doing is wrong and how it hurts people, but also why they're doing it. And I think that's where a lot of the gray area comes.
And also, I guess you can also see the rationality between Voldemort as well. It's like, oh, here's the reason why he's like this and why he's a terrible individual. Except they gave him, like, a reason. And that's what makes a good villain, if you know his story.
Yeah. Cool motive, still
and
murder.
that's why people love Game of Thrones, is because none of the characters are purely good or purely evil for most of the part.
Like, they're all terrible. I mean, Theron Greyjoy was the worst. But
right, but they all have their own motivations, and they all have.
Well, no, okay. The way I put it is, in Game of Thrones, in their eyes, they are the right person for that Iron Throne. Even with Westworld, it's like that too. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing this for infotainment. Yeah, it's supposed to be informative, but then you get like the people like, yeah, I'm gonna like, do all these terrible things to these robots because they're not real people. And then when you find out, oh, they actually kind of have emotion and stuff. Let's keep doing this terrible stuff to these robots.
I think the Percy Jackson books are great, though, in terms of being infotainment, as we were, or at least I was taught this one in class. We read it as, like, the book we read in English class in 7th grade. And then by the time you got to whenever it was 9th grade, 10th grade, when you read, like, the Odyssey and other stuff, more classic Greek literature, since we had just read this a couple years ago, it sort of helped ease us in to that, and there's definitely a lot you could pull from.
And also, a lot of Greek mythology, a lot of Greek stories are very, very hardcore.
Oh yeah, they're horrifying. Bad things happen to people. I'm trying to think. I feel like Percy Jackson wasn't really a part of any kind of curriculum when I was a kid, but...
Well, I'm 23, so it was... The third book had not quite come out by the time I was reading this first one, but I know that we had read the first one, and our teacher, we read that as a class, and then she had like 10 copies of the second book that had just come out, and then by the time we got to the end of the school year, she had ordered a couple of the third. So like the third and fourth, how many books are in the series?
There's 5.
The third, fourth, and fifth books, I actually had to wait to come out, and I read them as they came out. But the first 2 were the only ones I guess were out. And it's weird because at that time there was still at least one Harry Potter book that had not yet come out, and those were really big. But I think since this, Rick Riordan was releasing pretty much one a year, you didn't have to wait that long to get each one of these new books. And they're not like they're huge
reads either. Like for the first series, they're not huge reads. So B, what did you think of this chapter?
I thought it was fun. Like I said last week, I was like looking forward to getting more information. That didn't really happen.
Well, I guess some information. That's not true.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Not a lot though. Also, like, I have to remember that we're reading this chapter by chapter, so it's like it's not all gonna be super. Like, all of a sudden, everything will be revealed. But yeah, I liked this chapter. I thought it was fun to see. I mean, fun's maybe not the right word. Interesting to see his, like, home life and what his mom is like and what Smelly Gabe is like. Yeah, once again, it's like, I feel like every chapter is so cliffhanger-y that I'm just like, okay, and then what?
But isn't that a good thing, though? Because that makes you want to read the next chapter, though.
Yeah, it does. It's true. It does. It almost feels a little bit manipulative, I guess.
Oh, you mean like how all the R.L. Stine books are the exact same way? Imagine if me and Meg did our podcast chapter by chapter.
Yeah, that would drive you crazy, right? Because it's just like, it's so based on plot, on like cliffhangers where it's like, and then the mummy was knocking on the door, and then it's like, then there's the next chapter. Like, it's always...
Joke's on you. It was actually like a branch on the windowsill.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a lot of false... I was going to say false flags, which feels like a very serious phrase to use for a kid's book, but...
For me, I thought this chapter, very much similar to you, B. It was a very interesting dynamic of seeing, Percy's home life, as well as, his internal conflict with both himself, with his mom, and with Ugly Gabe. And I really like when he, the stuff you get with both his dad and what, it's like what a kid would go through. Yeah,
that's true. The thing about his dad was kind of interesting. Again, you don't really even find out that much about him other than he didn't know his dad, didn't meet him ever. And that, I mean, you knew the Lost at Sea thing. You don't find out really that much else in this chapter.
All we know is that Rick Riordan's slowly giving us clues and stuff on what's the bigger picture here, and we're slowly getting there. And finally, I can say by next chapter, we'll get some more answers.
Okay, well that's good, at least, because I'm ready to learn things about this world. I feel like the world building is just happening very, very slowly.
I mean, this is only the first 50 pages of this book.
Yeah, it's true. I need to, be realistic, of course, but I think it's just because I've been forcing myself to read it chapter by chapter for the podcast, so it's normally I wouldn't read a book like this. I would have already, been done with the book by now.
So, Mary, what did you think of this book?
I have been shocked to notice, I guess I just never noticed this when I first read it, because I also did not read it one chapter at a time, but the chapters are so much shorter than I thought they were.
Yeah.
And not just in content, but page numbers. They're each about 15 pages so far. I like that it's moving quickly because, you want the adventure to start, and the first 3 chapters already skip through several months of school. They pretty much finished up his semester and came home. So that was great. But the thing that's crazy about this is I'm trying to look at it from a perspective of someone who read the title but doesn't know what it's about and doesn't really understand Greek mythology and doesn't know what a half-blood is or any of that. And this chapter in particular, with the cliffhanger with Grover at the end, and the fact that they said that he had cursed in Greek and that Percy was able to understand him, I feel like that's your big first clue of, oh, whatever we're talking about here has to do with Greek mythology in some way. We knew that he took a Latin class and he liked that, and they were looking at Greek and Roman art in the museum, but those things were everyday things. This is the first, weird, why is something actually ancient Greek going on?
Yeah, that's the connection, I guess. I'm trying to think, is there any, overt connection that they make? I mean, I feel like just...
Unfortunately, I don't want to tell you what I can tell you, but they basically scream it out in the first 50 pages of what's happening in the story.
Yeah, I mean, also they talk about Mr. Brunner sounding like a horse galloping or whatever outside of the door, so there is, the implication that he might be a centaur or whatever, so, there are other weird little things that happen before this that hint at what's going on. I'm ready to see what Camp Half-Blood is.
B, what do you think Camp Half-Blood is?
It's a camp for half-bloods. I mean, right? It's basically a Hogwarts-esque place that people go if they are demigod people or whatever, and they learn about, I don't know, what do they learn? Sword fighting and archery and, I don't know, stuff like that. That's what I imagine.
And arts and crafts and weenie roasts.
Yeah, yeah, making ancient Greek pottery and building little mini centaurs out of popsicle sticks.
B, what do you think is going to happen next chapter? What is as the sayer? What do you think is going to happen?
I feel like I'm not gonna get this right, so I feel dumb guessing. But I don't know. Well, Grover just showed up. They seem pretty panicked, so they're running somewhere. They're gonna probably escape somewhere. Is he gonna get in their car? I don't know. He saw Grover's hooves, so that cat's out of the bag. At least, he's probably gonna bring that up at some point. That's probably something that Percy would want to address right away as soon as they were away from danger, because there's a hurricane happening. So probably the beginning of that chapter is going to be dealing with getting away from the coast and not dying. Once things settle down, maybe we'll get more information about who he is and where he comes from, and then his mom will be like, I'm sorry, I tried to protect you, something like that.
That sounds like a good prediction. We'll find out if those predictions are right next episode.
I'll probably be wrong.
Mary, any final things you'd like to say?
Yeah, I would say that my really biggest complaint is using the term honey, but now that I know the history of the author being from the South, maybe that makes a little more sense. I think that this book is bringing back a lot of memories from when I read it as a younger child, and I'm probably going to speed through the rest of the book just to get it out of my system. Not that you should do that.
See, that's the thing with me as well. It's I have to actually restrain myself, because I can easily read this book in one sitting.
You guys know how the book ends. I am coming at it as a new person and also reading it a chapter at a time, and I don't want to like read ahead because I want to remember exactly what happens in each chapter, and I feel like that would be hard.
Oh yeah, they'll start to blend together.
Yeah, they'll start to blend together. But like in the meantime, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. Can we just find out what's happening right now?
We're getting there. We're getting there, B.
Yeah, we'll find out eventually. I'm sure there's a plot to this book. Things happen in it.
Eventually, there's a plot to this book. Yes.
Everything happens so much. A lot of things are happening. It's just not informational things.
So, Mary, where can they find you?
Yes, if you are interested in a wide variety of random topics, such as those 3 very different Westworld, Twilight, and Revenge, all 3 of those, you are welcome to listen to my podcast, Kowski Cast. That's Cow with a K. And I am on Twitter at Kowski Cast as well, if you are interested. And if not, that's fine. You should just keep reading Percy Jackson and listening to Radio Camp Half-Blood.
So, B, where can they find you?
I'm on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com, and I'm on Twitter at bkellygorman.
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Suda41. That's SUDA41. If you want to email our show and send us messages such as what you think of the show, mini reviews, what you thought of this chapter, you can email us at radiocamphhalfblood@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at halfblood_radio. And if you want to leave a nice review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. Helps us boost our numbers up. And we will be able to spend the word to have more people. And we'd love hearing from you guys because it means a lot to us.
And we'll probably read your review on the show because so far we don't have any. We'll definitely read your review if you're the first person to review. How about that? I'll guarantee it.
Yes. Or, you could also like put them in a bottle and throw it in the ocean. And eventually either B or me will find it in the ocean.
Yeah, we're on either coast. We'll be waiting.
We cover both grounds. This is like the one person that finds like, who the heck's Radio Camp Half-Blood?
I mean, I was so afraid of things getting lost at sea as a kid, and now our reviews are going to get lost at sea also.
Well, I'm Zach.
I'm B.
And I was married.
You were married?
I was. Just this once.
And stay mortal. Bye.